For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss his column titled The ANC's Representational Crisis. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
So you speak of the ANC facing a series of representational crises. How are you using the word representation and why are they crises?
I'm using it in more than one way. Some of the uses are quite common. For example, when we say the ANC doesn't really represent me, even though I voted for the ANC before, I don't feel it represents me anymore. That is one sense of the word, that the ANC is identified as being the bearer of the interests of a particular group of people. Another meaning is to represent, in the sense that when you vote for a party, they are supposed to present to Parliament what you would want if you were there yourself. In other words, they are representing what you would yourself put there. If you believe that dogs must be treated better or something, they should be presenting that in Parliament. The third way I'm using it is in a cultural sense, which is the ANC represents something culturally. In other words, when you see green, gold and black, that signifies the ANC. In this time of the struggle, it also signified Mandela, signified sacrifice, it signified a whole lot of things. Maybe it signifies something else today. So I'm using it in three different ways, and I think in each sense there's a crisis.
You also speak of the ruling party being out of touch with the conditions of its constituents. Is this a fair statement, Raymond?
Well, you know, when the president of the ANC, president of the country, is shocked all the time, you know, he shocked at the state of Eskom, even though he was in charge of overseeing Eskom in the Zuma years. He is shocked at the sewage flowing in the streets in Alex. He's shocked about lack of water in Limpopo. Now, I am not in government, but I'm very well aware of a whole lot of other places that have got problems like that. And I know this mainly from reading media, because I read a lot of media. And when they had, on 702, they had Deep Fried Man comment on this. And he says, you know, he's like the white madam who's taking a domestic worker for the first time to the township. And the madam is shocked, you see, about this. And he said, when Cyril Ramaphosa is so shocked with these things, he's making Musi Maimane look streetwise. And the problem for me is that the ANC leadership is no longer, in many cases, no longer living in townships. They are no longer in touch with the experiences of many of the people from whom they came. And I think, as I said in the article, they are in many cases more comfortable with white South Africans in the middle, in the suburbs, than with people in the townships. It's partly because the leadership is out of touch, but partly because of wealth. Now, I don't have a problem with Cyril Ramaphosa being very wealthy, but if I were very wealthy, I would understand, and I'm not very wealthy, but I understand it for myself, that if I want to speak about conditions in the rural areas, I must actually go there, see what's happening, what it means to get water in a place that has not yet got taps. What does it mean? It has implications in terms of health, it has implications in terms of gender balance, because women generally go and fetch the water, etc. And I feel ANC used to be in touch with these things. It's not anymore.
And lastly, what is meant by the representational crisis in relation to the ANC's identity?
Well, what I said when I was explaining the three meanings is that the ANC is also a cultural phenomenon, in that the supporters and the organization have a cultural relationship of belonging or understanding the ANC in a particular way. Stuart Hall speaks of culture as meaning you can't have culture on your own. You have a culture in relation to other people, and you have shared maps of meaning, he calls it. Now, during the struggle, people understood the ANC to represent qualities that were very admirable. And that was understood between the leaders, who needed to behave in a particular sort of way, and the members and supporters who had these expectations of them. But now people still have green, gold and black. They still say amandla. They still stick their fists in the air. But people are cynical about it. Anyone can stick their fist in the air. Anyone can say amandla. So that's what I mean by the crisis of representation in terms of the ANC's identity. It no longer means something that is shared, and it no longer means what it used to mean.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Crima Media's Polity about the ANC's representational crisis.